Welcome to Pyramid's Baobab Storytime. We are in the bookstore, so if you hear the phone ring or see people walk by, just know we are live and we are working at Pyramid Art Books and Custom Framing. And we are located in the historic Dunbar neighborhood. Our focus is Black culture through literature and fine art. And today is a special Baobab story time because we are celebrating Women's History Month. And the most appropriate way to do that is with a book, of course. And the book for the day is Standing on Her Shoulders, a celebration of women. And we are excited to have Monica Clark Robinson and Laura Freeman here with us today. This is so exciting. It's virtual, and we're glad that they're here. And I'd also like to thank the Greater Little Rock chapter of Jack and Jill, who are our special guest hosts today. So we're excited that you're here and we're in for a fun time. So I want to tell you a little bit about our author. Monica Clark Robinson is passionately in love with stories and the wondrous powers they wield. This is her second book, and Monica lives in Little Rock, so we get to see her often, and she comes in. And if you want your book signed, make sure that you let us know because she will sign a book plate for you. So we're glad. Welcome, Monica. And Laura Freeman,
Thanks
you
so much. Thanks.
we're glad you're here. And Laura Freeman, we're excited because it's not often do you have the opportunity to have the author and the illustrator. So our illustrator is here, Miss Laura Freeman, and she is originally from New York City, and she now lives in Atlanta with her husband and their two children. She received her BFA from the School of Visual Arts and began her career working for various editorial clients. She has illustrated over 35 children's books. Can you imagine that? 35 books. And we're so excited that she is here with us today. So, welcome, Laura. Okay, so now we're going to get started and let them take over the show. So, Monica and Laura, take it away.
Thank you so much, Garbo. Thanks so much for hosting this. Pyramid Bookstore and Hearn Fine Art is one of my top locations in Little Rock, and it is the bookstore of my heart. I love being there, and I love supporting them. And then also, thank you so much to Jack and Jill of America, the Greater Little Rock um, region for hosting us today. I know I've presented for you guys before, and I love what you do. And I love seeing these faces today of the children. You all are beautiful. I miss children's faces. Laura, do you get to see any children's faces right now in your life? Oh, I think you're muted. Can everybody else hear Laura and just not me?
We can't hear her. I'm giving her some instructions in the chat.
Okay, terrific. Okay, well, I will move on then with what I was going to talk about, and we'll come back to Laura later. Laura is going to be sharing some of her art process with us, and it's so fantastic. You guys are going to be so excited. So I'm going to get right away to reading the book that Laura and I made together with you. I think I can hear you now, can't I, Laura?
Can you?
Yes.
Okay, I guess there was
Yes,
something wrong with my earbuds.
I guess so. So, are you seeing sweet children's faces in your lives currently, or are you missing them like I am?
Oh no, I'm missing them. My kids, I have two boys and they're both grown. So
Yep. My youngest is 14. So it's so nice to see you all. I hope that we run into each other in Little Rock sometime. Oh gosh, you're so adorable. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my screen now. And hi, Jasmine. Hi. I love the waving. Let's see. Let me go to my where I'm sharing screen. I think I'm here. And then here. Yeah. Okay. So I'll read this book to you first. And then after that, Laura's going to share with you some of the process of her art that she does with it. So here we go. Standing on Her Shoulders, a celebration of women. And look, those are pictures on the wall. And I bet you guys recognize some of these women. If you recognize any of these women, Tell the adult you're with right now if you recognize any of them. Standing on Her Shoulders, A Celebration of Women by Monica Clark Robinson, art by Laura Freeman. Come, sit with us, child. We have stories to tell. Listen closely. You come from a deep, deep well. Our mothers and all those who've gone before paved a freer path and opened a wider door. There's surely still plenty of work to do, but there's much to learn from what they went through. Let me make sure this is right. There we go. For we are standing on the shoulders of the strong, smart, sage, and soulful ones who have gone before us. Think of the one who mothers you. She's with you, even when you are apart. You are forever a piece of her heart. Speak her name. So right now, I want you guys to really do this. Think of the one who has mothered you, or maybe it's more than one person who has mothered you. And just say her name right now, out loud. I'll say mine, Phyllis. And you guys do the same. And you can even unmute yourselves for a minute. And I want to hear all the names of the women who've mothered you.
Adrian, Crystal, Mommy, Anastasia,
Judy,
Love it. Any others? Beautiful. I know some people who are silent. Adults need to speak out too. Okay, I'll keep going. And the ones who came before her, generations strong, their words sing of grit and love, your family song. You are standing on their shoulders. Think of the legends whose lives made way for yours. Though years have passed, each story, each name endures. When you speak their names, they live on in you. You are standing on their shoulders too. Freedom seekers, truth speakers, fierce women, brave and wise, justice burning in their eyes. Warriors in the fight, marching for their right, believing in a day when women would have a say. Champions of equality, challengers of authority, peaceful freedom fighters, brave and bold bus riders, magic believers, dream weavers, revolutionary minds, their works echoing through time. Leaders of a new team, dreamers of a new dream, women fighting for their right, athletes of grace and might. Speak their names. Keen and curious explorers, refusing to take orders. Women who dared to defy, showing girls another way to fly. We are standing on their shoulders. When we remember them and speak their names, we respect the struggles they overcame. We are grateful for the freedoms they've given. We stand on the shoulders of powerful women, women who were little ones, just like you. When we speak, whisper, sing, and shout their names, we honor their lives and the rights we gained. We are all standing on their shoulders. Who will stand on yours? And then in the back part of the book, as you can see, Laura has put beautiful portraits of each woman that's featured in the book. And then we wrote just a small 1 or 2 sentence biography of them. So if you get the book, you can, it's a way for you to go a little deeper in seeing what all these women were about and who they were. And then that is the end. So let me stop screen sharing. There we go. So that's the book that Laura and I made. And it's interesting when an author and an illustrator work together for a book like this. Oftentimes the illustrator and the author don't get to even talk about what the book is going to look like. And the reason for that is because the illustrator has their own vision, their own artistic vision of what the book should look like, about what the book means to them or what it feels like inside their mind and their heart. And so Laura brought something to this book that was amazing, and I think she's going to share some art with you guys. This is super cool, you guys. Wait till you see how she makes her art. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, what Monica said is true. The publishers actually purposely keep you apart, the author and the illustrator, which is very different from self-published books. They don't want you to be in contact. They want you to bring your own story to the words. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you one of the images in the book. Here we go. So this is a sketch for one of the pages, and I work on a computer, so this is Photoshop, and this is the sketch for the page with Maya Angelou, Louise May Alcott, and Zora Neale Hurston. And if you'll notice, I didn't put faces in any of the women in the sketches, and the reason for that is when I'm doing my sketches, it's there are still possibilities that they'll be changed, and I don't want to put a lot of time into capturing the likeness of the person until I have the approval of the art director and the editor as far as where everything is going to be placed, and they're okay with the image that I'm drawing. This is the color version, the final version of that same page. And in Photoshop, I work in layers. So I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around on the screen, but I'm going to be pointing with the mouse. So I put the women, all three women are separate from the background flowers. You can see where the flowers are going to be covered. I didn't really worry about what that looked like because I knew the women were going to be on top of it. So Zora Neale Hurston is in the front, and everything within each woman is also on a layer that I paint separately in Photoshop. So her hat is on one layer. Within the hat, the feather is on a separate layer. Her head is painted separately from her hair and her body, and the same thing for Maya Angelou. She's in a layer. I adjusted the color, brightened it up on another layer. Her mouth is in a separate layer. Everything is done separately to make it easy for me to move things around and adjust things. Here are the flowers, they're separate. And there is some of the reference that I used. Zora Neale Hurston and Maya Angelou. Actually, you can see it better in the sketch. We have a few different images open of what I used to capture Zora Neale Hurston and Maya Angelou's likenesses. I work with a Wacom pen so that I can draw. Let me stop showing my screen so that I can show you my pen. So this is the pen that I use to draw the images. This is the tablet. I draw on the screen with the tablet. I don't know if you guys have ever played around with iPads, but it's very similar. You draw onto the tablet and it makes a mark on the computer. So that's just a little mini presentation, so that you can see how I do the art.
That's so fascinating. Laura, I have a question for you because my husband was asking me when you presented last time, about the incense that's on that picture that you shared. And I know what the incense means to me, but I was wondering what made you choose putting the incense on that picture of the three women.
You know, it's funny, when I start working on a book, before I even do any images, the first thing I do is start doing research about the characters. And so I was reading about Zora Neale Hurston, and I read that that she did a lot of research herself into voodoo rituals, and so that those symbols that are on her on her dress, on her sweater in the book are like things that I found that relate to things that she researched.
Oh, that's super cool. And
What
also
what
it
did you
ties
think it
in.
was?
To me, it felt like it was about magic and dreams and sort of that
Well, that's true.
mystical artistic impulse. Yeah.
Well, that's
So it's
exactly that's
like
exactly
everything in
yeah, that's right. That's
yeah, and like everything in art
exactly.
and literature and stuff,
She was interested in
things
that.
mean
Mhm.
yeah, things mean what they mean to everybody differently. So wonderful. That was so cool. So I have a question for everybody now, and you can unmute yourselves to talk about this. So in the book, I talk about standing on her shoulders, and I talk about all the women, both the women who mothered you and the women who you were who you were fans of in your life, maybe your teachers, maybe your doctors, all of those kinds of things. So my question is, if you, especially the kids, but the adults can also share this, if you have women in your life that you're like, wow, this person is so important to me, I really, really depend on this person in my life, I am standing on her shoulders, I would like for you to just take a minute and share the names of whose shoulders you are standing on. So I'll start and I'll show you how to say it. I am definitely standing on the shoulders of my English teacher, Mrs. Bevel, because she was who started the love of literature in my life back in middle school. So that's one of my people that whose shoulders I'm standing on. So now you guys take a turn. Go ahead, Jasmine. I see your face.
I don't know what to say.
Are there any women in your life who make you who help you in your life that are important to you?
Don't do that.
That's okay. You don't have to share. Does anyone want to share?
Sojourner Truth?
Sojourner Truth, absolutely. We are all standing on her shoulders, aren't we? Who else?
Miss Garbo.
Oh my goodness.
Miss Garbo. Yes.
My daughter,
All of
Miss
Little
Gar.
Rock is standing on your shoulders.
All right. Well, I am
What'd you say?
standing
I'm
on
sorry.
I'm standing on the shoulders of my mother, Bobby Watson. So definitely want to pay tribute to my mom. So
Absolutely.
thank you. Thank you, Candace.
Anybody else want to share?
Hello. I would have to also say my mother, just because, just like a lot of the women in the book, faced difficult times as they were, getting older, raising families, and they overcame their obstacles that they were presented to. And not only did they benefit themselves, their family, but also their community and future generations. So even though my mother may not have had some of the, let's say, she had to struggle. She overcame her struggles, but yet decided to, give a better life, for my sisters and I. So I stand on her shoulders.
That's fantastic. Who else wants to share?
My
Go
Nana.
ahead. I see your Nana. Yes, Nanas are amazing.
His
Anybody
Nana
else?
is my mom's oldest sister who really took over raising a family. So she's the adopted matriarch. Yeah, she did.
Sometimes adopted family or found family is the best family of all.
What's the question?
Anybody else want to share?
Phyllis, what are you doing?
My mom.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Phyllis.
Are we allowed?
That was
Are we
That's
allowed
right.
to say what
So I
somebody?
just sprayed stuff on my head.
Are we allowed?
I think someone.
Does
Go
that
ahead,
smell bad?
Jasmine.
Are we allowed?
Hold on.
to say what
Someone needs to mute.
Already said.
Alan, I think you need to mute, hun.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Jasmine, would you say that one more time, sweetie? I'm sorry.
Can we say what the people said already?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know what they said.
Okay, well, you can wait.
Do you want to share anything?
I don't know.
So no, thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay, that's all right, Jasmine. I bet you've got some amazing women in your life and they know you love them.
For your mom.
My mom.
Uh-huh. I bet. I bet. Does anybody else want to share? If not, okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I see your hand. Camden Smith, I see, and Brooke Montgomery, I see. Go ahead, Camden.
My grandma's special because I love when she used to take care of me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I press
My
one of
grandma.
these now?
No emojis, no.
Emoji.
Okay, Brooke, how about you?
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman, absolutely. You know what I always get excited about Harriet Tubman? She's famous in like 5 different ways. You know, for if you think you know all that Harriet Tubman did, woo, go look because she did at least 3, 4 more important things. She's such an amazing figure in so many ways. I see a hand. I see Kaylee. Go ahead.
I stand for
You got to unmute though.
I stand for my mom.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. All righty. Well, do I have time, Garbo? Do I have time to share the second book? Or are we running out of time?
Yes, please share it. Please
Monica,
share it.
there's a
Okay.
question that came into chat,
We do
Oh,
have a
yeah,
question.
sure.
and it's asking how long it takes to create an illustrated book.
Yes.
Yeah,
So-
so I'll share my portion and then I'll pass it off to Laura. For me, it all depends upon how much research there is, and then it also depends upon how long it takes to sell the book. This one took a while because we lost an editor and an art director after it had been sold, and we had to wait for Scholastic to get a new art director and a new editor. And so that took a long time. Laura and I were waiting for months and months for new direction in that way. But the writing of this one maybe took me 6 months of revisions to get it right. Laura, tell us about your process and how long that takes.
When normally when I get the manuscript, which is the words that Monica wrote, and then the hopefully, usually the art director and editor will paginate it for me so that I know what words are going to go on what page. Once I have that, I start working on my sketches, which means that I start doing research for the ideas, and then start working on the sketches. And that usually takes maybe a month, maybe 2. And then I send them to the art director, and they will get back to me. And depending on how long it takes to get back to me, also, sometimes it's pretty quick and sometimes it might take months. They got back to me within a week or two, and I started working on the final. No, they got back to me with changes, which is what normally happens. You know, people have different ideas, or they notice something isn't quite right or something isn't working, and they'll come back to me, and I'll submit revisions to those sketches. And that is where in the process, after I had already submitted revisions, that the art director and editor both left Scholastic. And so then it was a really months and months. I don't remember how long it was, but it was a really long time. And then when the new art director and new editor came on board, it was starting from scratch because they had different visions. So I had to start with new sketches and new revisions, and then to finals. So it took maybe 3 times as long as other books that I've worked on.
This one took quite a while. And the original text of the book only very rarely rhymed. So when the new editor came on, she was like, "This book is strongest when it rhymes. I want you to rhyme the whole book." And so I really had to just do a big rewrite, but I think it made it better. So that's fun. There's another question. How did you get the idea? And I got the idea when my youngest daughter, I was pregnant with her and I had a baby shower. And this woman who held the baby shower for me led us in this kind of guided meditation about imagining the ancestors standing behind us in growing circles of women with their hands on on us, and that going back hundreds and hundreds of years, not just our family, but also generations of women of all races from all over the world upon whose shoulders we were standing, women who broke through barriers and made a difference, and all of that. So that's how I got the idea. And it's interesting because you know how in the pictures in the book, you see a family having a family reunion? That was all Laura's idea. See, the illustrator is just as much a storyteller as the person who wrote the words is. It's just telling a visual story, right? And
I
so
would
that's
say that it was might have been one of the art directors or editors also. So yeah, he
okay.
suggested it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's awesome.
but putting like the sister thing in it, that was me. So
Oh, that's my favorite. Having the old, well, because I have 2 girls, so maybe that's why that's my favorite thing. But and that's also why you see the family. I imagine that when I imagine this book, I haven't seen pictures of Laura's family, but I always imagine them looking like the people in this book. In my mind, that's I imagine this is Laura when she was young. It's probably not, but that's what I imagine anyway. So so now I have another question for you guys. So whether you are an adult or a young child, I bet you might be thinking, there's a woman in this country right now who just did something really big, something no woman has ever done before in this country. And we got to watch her about a couple of months ago. We got to watch her accept this big honor. Can anyone remember, or does anyone know what woman I'm talking about?
Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris.
Yes. Yes, Kamala. Yes, and yes, Kamala Harris, absolutely. And there is a beautiful book written by Mickey Grimes. Yes, Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. It's actually Kamala. I keep getting it wrong, but it's Kamala. So, yes. So we are so excited to see a woman of both Black and Indian descent who is now Vice President of the United States and maybe president one day, right? So I would like to share a book with you because here's the really special thing about this book It was also illustrated by Laura Freeman. So I am so excited to share this book with you, and I'm going to screen share right now and go to it. If I can ever move my thing. There we go. Kamala Harris. I'm going to get it right. Kamala Harris, Rooted in Justice. Eve slammed the door when she got home from first grade. Eve, you know we don't slam doors in this house, her mom said. What's going on? Teacher asked what we wanted to be when we grew up, and I said president. And Calvin said, girls can't be president, stupid. Well, he's wrong, said her mother. Girls can grow up to be president. In fact, a girl from right here in Oakland hopes to be president one day. Life is a story you write day by day. Kamala's begins with a name that means lotus flower. See how her beautiful smile opens wide, like petals fanning across the water's surface. But you don't see the flower's roots, her roots. They grow deep, deep, deep down. Let me show you. Kamala's family line was a strong black and brown braid coiling from India, where her mother, Shyamala, was born.
How many do
To
you
Jamaica, where her father, Donald, was born. To Berkeley,
Oh, she had
California,
11
where
total?
her parents.
Okay.
Garbo, I think you need to be muted. There we go. Where her parents fell in love and married. To Oakland, where Kamala was born. It was a good beginning. Is this like Once Upon a Time? Not exactly, said Eve's mom. This story is true. Right away, Kamala was like clay her parents molded for action. When her mother wasn't hunting cures for cancer and her father wasn't teaching, both marched for civil rights and went to lectures by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Kamala was right there too, bouncing along in her stroller, chewing on her pacifier, and words like peace and justice. What's justice? Eve asked her mom. Justice is another word for fairness. Once, when tiny Kamala was fussing, her mother couldn't figure out what was the matter. What do you want, little girl? She asks. Freedom, said Kamala, and a waterfall of laughter sputtered from her mother's mouth. At demonstrations, marchers often chanted, What do we want? And the answer was always, Freedom! Little Kamala had been listening. Kamala's baby sister Maya screamed her way into the world when Kamala was 2. In no time, her sisters were having faraway adventures together, like visiting their grandparents in Zambia. Grandfather P.V. Gopalan was a senior diplomat there. He had once fought for India's independence. His wife, Rajam, Kamala's grandmother, fought for the rights of women. Little by little, on these visits, Kamala and Maya learned that fighting for justice ran in the family. Sadly, when Kamala was 7, her family squeezed into a different shape. Her parents divorced, and her daddy moved to Palo Alto, while Mommy and the girls packed for the Flatlands, the black working class area in Berkeley. Having a long distance daddy can make your heart hurt. But Kamala's new neighbors welcomed her family with smiles and helping hands warm as sunshine. Still, Kamala was sometimes lonely for her daddy. Luckily, her godmother, Aunt Mary, lived close by and gave Kamala extra hugs whenever she needed them. Sounds like Aunt Mary was someone that she was standing on the shoulders of, doesn't it? Interesting. While we're reading this book, I want you to think about all the women that Kamala is standing on the shoulders of. So it's her mother, her grandmother, her godmother. Let's see if there are more in the book, okay? Like other black and brown kids in the Flatlands, Kamala was part of a California program to integrate the schools. Every day, she rode a yellow bus, bumping through familiar city streets, all the way to the wealthy white part of town, with sprawling hillsides painted with gardens. Thousand Oaks Elementary was a world away, but Kamala didn't mind. There, she got to meet kids who were rich and poor, black and white, kids who celebrated holidays she'd never even heard of. There, teachers taught her to count to 10 in many different languages. Ooh, I can count to 10 in Spanish, said Eve. Who taught you that? Asked her mom. Guadalupe from next door. Eve smiled proudly. School let out before Mrs. Harris got home, so Kamala and Maya spent the afternoon at the Shelton house 2 doors down, where Mrs. Regina Shelton ran daycare and after-school programs with posters on the wall of Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, and Harriet Tubman. Mrs. Shelton was a second mother to Kamala, always encouraging her to have confidence. Once, Mrs. Shelton bit into a lemon bar Kamala had made all by herself, accidentally using salt instead of sugar. Oh, delicious, said Mrs. Shelton. Maybe a little too much salt, but really delicious, she said, never pointing out Kamala's almost total failure. That day, Mrs. Shelton let Kamala walk away feeling successful, feeling like she could do anything. Sounds like Mrs. Shelton is someone that Kamala is standing on the shoulders of. After school, Kamala's days bulged with busyness. She had homework, piano lessons, ballet classes, and Barbie playtime. Thursday nights were the best, though. The family would go to the Rainbow Sign, a cultural center celebrating Black art, music, books, and film. James Baldwin spoke there, Maya Angelou read there, and Nina Simone sang there. Nina's gravelly voiced version of To Be Young, Gifted, and Black often rang through Kamala's home. The more she heard this favorite song, the more Kamala thought, I'm young, gifted, and black, too. On Sundays, when they weren't visiting their father, Kamala and Maya rocked from side to side at the 23rd Avenue Church of God, where they tapped tambourines and sang as part of the children's choir. Fill My Cup, Lord was Kamala's favorite hymn. The church was there when she learned the Bible, that God asks us to speak for those who can't, to defend the rights of the poor and needy, like some lawyers do. Her Uncle Sherman was that kind of lawyer. Maybe someday Kamala would be one too. I don't want to be a lawyer, said Eve, but I like making sandwiches for the homeless. That's helping too, right? Right, said her mom. In her first year of middle school, Kamala would need a lot of faith. She learned a new lesson about change, a lesson dressed in down jackets and mittens. Her family was moving north, where 12 feet of snow and her mother's new job waited in Montreal. It will be a wonderful adventure, Shyamala told her girls. But Kamala grumbled. The thought of leaving her friends and the warmth of sunny California made her shiver. It was February, and Montreal, robed in winter's sparkling white, felt like it had ice in its veins. Kamala couldn't stop shivering. Worse yet, their new neighbors spoke French, a language Kamala's mother insisted her daughters learn. The English name of the French school her mother handpicked for them was Our Lady of the Snows. That's a funny name, said Eve. Maybe, said her mom, but Kamala wasn't laughing. Montreal was no place for a lotus flower. I'm sorry, you may be hearing chickens. We have chickens outside in our yard. Sighing, Kamala unpacked her new clothes and her old experiences, like marching for change with her mom. One spring day, when the temperature rose enough for outdoor sports, Kamala and Maya marched in front of their apartment building, waving picket signs because kids weren't allowed to play soccer on the front lawn. It wasn't fair, and Kamala cared a lot about fairness. The building manager read Kamala and Maya's signs and changed the rules. Kamala adjusted to life in Canada, but memories of her home country still rang her heart like a bell. After graduating high school, she ached to return to America, where her parents had nursed her on the civil rights movement. She couldn't wait to follow in the footsteps of her heroes, Constance Baker Motley, Charles Hamilton Houston, and Thurgood Marshall. Marshall had attended Howard University, and Kamala decided she would too. On her first day at Howard, Kamala turned this way and that, smiling at the faces from students from America, Africa, the Caribbean. It was Thursday nights at the Rainbow Sign all over again, where everyone in the room was Black, like her. They reminded her of home and the people she wanted to help, the people she wanted to fight for. This university would begin to teach her how. Howard seemed like a perfect place to run her very first campaign. It was for class representative of the Liberal Arts Student Council. Her competition was tough, but so was Kamala. Every day between classes, she passed out flyers in the campus yard and told any students who'd listen why they should vote for her. When the last ballot was counted, Kamala came out the winner. Daddy says I don't have any competition because there's only one me, said Eve. That's right, said her mom. He should tell Kamala there's only one her. Eva's mom just smiled. Kamala's time at Howard was focused on the future. She competed on the debate team to sharpen her speaking skills. She interned at the Federal Trade Commission. She did research at the National Archives to study the workings of government. And on weekends, she joined fellow students on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. to protest apartheid in South Africa. Kamala was preparing to be a woman warrior. Like Wonder Woman? Asked Eve. No, better, said her mom. Wonder Woman isn't real. Nothing matched the magic of her second summer break when Kamala stepped through the doors of the private Senate subway as an intern for Senator Alan Cranston. Kamala could barely hold in the secret of her joy. What could be better than learning from someone whose footsteps echoed in the halls of power every day? After Howard, California called Kamala home to study at Hastings College of the Law. Court cases and contracts filled Kamala's mind, but changing lives filled her heart. Elected president of the Black Law Students Association, Kamala invited major law firms to a job fair so that more Black graduates had a fair chance to be hired by the best companies in the world. This work was great practice for Kamala's future. Graduating law school meant there was one more exam to take, the California bar. Without passing it, Kamala could not practice the law. She didn't pass, which taught Kamala something new: failure. It is the toughest teacher, but it can also be the best because it makes you dig down deep and try harder. On the second try, Kamala passed. If at first you don't succeed, said Eve's mom, try again, finished Eve. Kamala was finally ready to climb the mountain of her dreams. First, deputy district attorney. Next, the first female district attorney of San Francisco. Then, the first Black woman attorney general of California. Peak by peak, she rose, eventually becoming the second Black woman voted into the U.S. Senate. Lawyer, prosecutor, senator, the little girl named Lotus Flower had turned herself into a person others could call on for help. Did she use magic to turn herself into that person? Asked Eve. No, sweetie. Kamala just used hard work. As senator, Kamala fought for laws to help workers earn more money, joined the Women's March on Washington for equality and civil rights, and telephoned lawyers to help immigrant children who came to America looking for some place to live. Each time she answered a call for help, Kamala proved that her family's legacy of public service was alive and well in her. What's a legacy? Asked Eve. It's like the inheritance you leave behind for your children. Kamala had traveled far, but she hadn't finished climbing the mountain of her dreams. On Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday on the TV show Good Morning America, Kamala told the world, "I'm running for president of the United States." She immediately got goosebumps, wondering if Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to run for president, was smiling down from heaven that very moment. Months into the race, Kamala realized that running for president cost more money than she thought, and Kamala's campaign team didn't have enough. She decided to give up her run for the 2020 presidential nomination. Sad to leave the race, Kamala looked forward to all the good work she could do as Senator Harris. That's okay, said Eve. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Exactly, said her mom. Will Donald and Shyamala's daughter ever get to call the White House home? Only God knows. Kamala Harris is still writing her American story. And so are you. I know what happens next, said Eve. What? Asked her mom. Tomorrow, I'll tell Calvin that he's wrong and he's a doofus. Eve Temple, I taught you better than that, said her mother. Okay, said Eve, her fingers crossed behind her back. I won't tell him. And that's the end. But you guys know what happened next in the story, don't you? She became vice president. Yeah. So I love that book. Laura, the art you did for that book was so, so, so wonderful.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing it.
So Laura, did you get a response or have you spoken to Vice President Harris?
Oh, no.
No? No.
I have it.
It's a very beautiful book, and thank you, Monica, for reading it and sharing it with us. Do we have any other questions for our author and illustrator? None? Well, we are so happy that you were able to be with us today. We are going to the next section of Baobab Storytime, which we do Miss Manners, because manners are so very important in this day and time, and learning how to teach and respect others. So I'm going to turn the story time over to Ayana, who is our Miss Manners today. So meet Ayana, and then after this, we have a special turn of the wheel because someone on the program, on the Zoom, will win a book today. So stay tuned to see who's going to win the book. Okay. Thanks. Take your mask off.
Hello, hello. Can y'all hear me? Yes. Alrighty. Hello
Hi.
to hey. How are y'all doing? Good, good. Good to hear. Alrighty. So for today, we're going to learn about respect. So, how can you show your mom or anybody that you love and others that you appreciate them by showing a respect? So, things that we're going to do is by saying please and thank you. And when you ask something, ask like your mom for something for like PB&J, you ask, you say, please, mom, can you make me a PB&J? But what we don't want to do is, beg and say, please, 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 because begging isn't polite. So just say, please, mom, can you make me a PB&J sandwich? And then after she makes it, say thank you, because that is showing them that you love them and respect. So today, just say thank you, say please, and show them that you love them. Respect, respect, respect. Alrighty.
There is a beautiful picture book about respect that is specifically about Aretha Franklin, but it just came out this year and it's called RESPECT. And it both teaches you about Aretha Franklin and about respect. And not just respect for others, but respect for yourself. And I know Miss Garbo also has that book in her bookstore, and it just won the Coretta Scott King Award this year. So it is a beauty.
Okay, so thank you so much for that Miss Manners part. And so I want to have a question. Does anybody have a March birthday? If you have a March birthday, unmute yourself.
You do.
I don't. Any March birthdays? Oh, Miss Manners is her birthday. Okay, next week. So no March birthdays. So nobody, I don't get to touch the tree, but I want each of you to agree to read every night. Every night, get a book, make mom and dad read a book to you because reading is so important. So Anna, are you ready to spin the wheel?
Well, before we spin the wheel, we have a few announcements. Let me bring that up. So thank you so much again to author Monica Clark Robinson and illustrator Laura Freeman for being with us today, and for our host, the Greater Little Rock chapter of Jack and Jill of America. As you all know, the purpose of our Baobab story times are to really help with literacy and plant that early seed for learning and reading in your child. So books make great gifts. So if your child already has this book in their library, definitely feel free to donate it to someone else or your alma mater or the local library where your child goes to school. We will follow up with an email after this event, thanking everybody and just letting you know how you can order this book. Then for our next story time, it is March 28th at 2 p.m. We are going to be celebrating Ray Montague Day. Ray Montague was Arkansas's own hidden figure. She was a naval engineer. And her son, Dr. David Montague, will be reading The Girl with a Mind for Math, the story of Ray Montague, on Ray Montague Day, which is March 28th. And so now for our book giveaway, the Wheel of Names. Give me 1 second to share. All right, so we have our Wheel of Names. These are all of our families that joined us today. I did remove any Clarks. They sound like they're related to Monica. All
I
right.
think there was Clark that wasn't. I don't think there's a Deborah Clark that's related.
Oh, okay, so hold on real quick. Let's add them back to the wheel. Okay.
And while you're doing that, I want to say I would like to sponsor an extra spin of that wheel. So I will purchase a second book to go to someone today.
Awesome. Okay, well, let me share my screen again and we're going to spin the wheel. So our first winner is Katrina Banks. Yay. All right, and so then our second spin, sponsored by our author today. All righty, the Davis ladies, Sarah, Ella, and Delaney. Awesome.
So we ask that you come by the bookstore and pick up your books at the end of next week. They're already signed by Monica Clark Robinson, so thank you. So please come by and pick up your books. And thank you so much for being part of our March Baobab Storytime. And thank you again, Monica and Laura. It's been such a treat and a delight, and we have really enjoyed the presentation. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you all March 28th, and keep happy reading.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Miss Ayana.
Thank you very much.
Miss Ayana.
Bye.
Bye.
Miss Ayana.
You looking for Ayana?
Yes.
Hold on 1 second. Let me get her. Ayana, you have a person who wants to say something to you.